Arizona gets rolled against TCU. What does this mean for the Wildcats going forward? And at the same time, is this a situation that can be salvaged?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. This show is brought to you today by FanDuel. Check it out. You can put down $5 and get $150 in free plays if you're a new customer and you win FanDuel. Check it out, FanDuel.com. Okay, now let's talk about TCU, Arizona, and everything that's going on with this game. First of all, I got to give the players a lot of credit for fighting back in this. Early on, it looked like this game was going to be 98-0, and again, that is a testament to the players on this team. And the players on this team, there's a lot of character involved. And not only is there a lot of character involved, there's a lot of just, players that are just solid dudes across the board. Noah, T-Mac, I mean, they're just good guys. Now, with Arizona, this was a game though that clearly TCU was a much better football team than Arizona, and in the second half they certainly showed that. Dwayne Aquina is dealing obviously with a difficult situation as far as injuries, lack of talent, etc., etc., etc. But the thing about it too is this is kind of like a rudderless ship at this point. This team is about as bad as it gets. I don't know that anybody could have foreseen it being as bad as it is right now. Right now, you're dealing with a team that is. Probably going to be 4-8, and in a good percentage of these, these games haven't even been competitive. TCU wasn't competitive. Central Florida wasn't competitive. And the problem is that these aren't really world beater teams that you're losing to. And, Brent Brennan has talked about how they're going to do things the right way. They're going to build. They're going to develop talent. And I just don't know at this stage in the game how that is compatible with bringing him back. Now, I will say I have no clue if he's going to be back or not. That is a decision that Desiree Reed-Francois is going to make. And it'll be interesting because right now the community's out on him. Now, there's 15% of people that will always say that the coach should be supported no matter what. And not only should the coach be supported no matter what, he should be the one that gets, you just got to support him. I don't know that as a matter of fact, I don't agree with that because again, these guys are being paid a lot of money to be able to do, things that, are, how do I put this? These guys are being paid a lot of money. So, and they're in a good situation to be in. So, if you want to criticize me and give me $14 million to go away, I will gladly take that $14 million to go away. But again, that doesn't excuse the fact that this has been a terribly, terribly coached team. And when I ask people this, I don't know what the answer is, but I ask people this all the time, and I'm like, okay, what is the the mindset? What has Brent Brennan done that is going to make you say that, next year is going to be better? And I think the fan base, that we're kind of at this point is pretty much out. You bring back Brent Brennan and you're going to be dealing with, 18 to 20,000 people. Now you could say that, a coach deserves basically as much time as possible. They deserve more than a year. Fine. But I'm also of the point, too, that we're also at the stage, too, where you're like, okay, Arizona, if you're going to, what have you seen from Brent Brennan that indicates to you that he's going to be able to get this thing going? And I just don't know that you can see anything from him that indicates that he's going to be able to get this going. And I think that's the problem with that is, are you going to get better by losing T-Mac? I don't think that you're going to get better by losing T-Mac. Also, I don't think that you're going to be able to get, better losing some of the players like a Jonas Savanea. And have you seen anything from this, staff that indicates to you that they're going to be able to change things. I don't see it. Now, again, there's certain players I like, but at the same time, I also think that you're kind of at the stage now where you just know that at this stage, this is just not a very good coaching staff, and the regression of the players has been absolutely tremendous in a bad way. And that's something that you just can't have. This fan base, they're not dumb. They know what they've seen. And I think the thing is, too, is that I think with Brent Brennan, you realize that it's just somebody that's in over his head. And sometimes you might say, well, a coach deserves a certain amount of time. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And again, Arizona's not Florida State. I get that. But Florida State figured out very quickly Willie Taggart was not the dude. They figured out, same thing with and again, it's 40 years ago, but Cedric Dempsey looked at Ben Lindsay and he said, that is not the dude that's not the guy that you're going to be able to use. So I think you got to move on. Now, again, it's easier for me to say, and I'm not saying I have any clue what's going to happen. She could very well announce after the Territorial Cup that he's coming back, but again, I just don't see any way that it's better. And I think my question would be, if you're going to bring him back, then you're most likely acknowledging then that if you're bringing him back, it's probably going to how do I put this? Be something where you're going to have to give him a third year then. Not saying I support that. I certainly don't support that. But you're probably going to have to give him a third year at that point then, because this team next year is not going to be very good. And the players you're going to be bringing in are young. You're going to have to look at them for a third year. I just don't know how you can sit here and say that this is going to be a tenable situation for Arizona. As far as options, anybody. That's kind of where I'm at. We're going to talk about that in a second, but anybody, because it cannot be worse than this. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But first, FanDuel, check it out, FanDuel.com. All right, here's the great thing with FanDuel.com. You can bet on anything. You can bet on football. You can bet on basketball. You can bet pretty much on anything, and it's going to be good. And the great thing about it, too, is you got football, you got basketball, you got all kinds of stuff here. FanDuel.com, your one-stop shop. Check it out. I think with FanDuel, the other thing that you've got to love about all of this, too, is that you know that you can put down $5 and you can get $150 in free plays if you are a new customer and you hit. That's pretty cool. Go ahead and get it. $5, $150, all kinds of really, really good stuff. FanDuel.com. Again, going to thank me later on this one. You got some great deals. Go ahead and check them out. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, a big part of this, too, is where are you at, though, with Arizona when it comes to Brent Brennan and coaches? I was talking with Shear about this quite a bit, and I think the thing with Shear, and I got him to come around on this, it can't be worse than Brent Brennan. That is where I'm at with this. It can't be worse. So you bring in anybody. There's nobody that could have done a worse job with this team, and he doesn't really get it from a pretty much any part. And what I don't get to is that there's like the coaches are tweeting out social media graphics and tweeting out social media graphics about what's going on right after the game, and that's kind of where it's at with this. Now, the thing that I will say is with Arizona, you just kind of know sometimes when a coach is in over his head. And Brent Brennan, another example. He's been beat up, especially by me, by not being out there, not being in the community. Fair enough. So what does he do? He waits till week 11 and then takes some pictures of handing out pizza to kids waiting at the Duke game. He was only doing that because he's getting beat up by that. So there is that. But when you watch him, he just doesn't own the press conference. There's really nothing about him that, and then you conversely, you look at Kenny Dillingham. That dude owns the press conference. You see what he's doing up at ASU. You see how impactful he has been with that fan base and that transfer portal. That transfer portal room has been insane under him, and the everybody that he's gotten in, he's pretty much hit on. And that's where it's you got to do that in this day and age. You've got to be able to do this. And he's done it. He's engaged the community, and if you're a kid in state, why in the world would you want to, come to Arizona right now as opposed to playing for Kenny Dillingham? I mean, it's pretty much that simple. He has basically been the blueprint that Brent Brennan has totally chosen to ignore, and that is a problem, I think, for Arizona, and that is something that I think that, that's not going to be rectified, in my opinion, as long as Brent Brennan is here, and I think that is the problem, is that there's nothing about him that indicates that. Now, speaking of another reason they're not going to be better next year, you don't lose T-Mac and get better. That's the thing. Watching this team, you're like, all right, with T-Mac, you're like, this team is not getting, this is a generational talent. This is, in my opinion, the best football player that has stepped foot here in the last 25 years. He is the best player since Chris McAllister, and he is not only is he he's just a generational talent. You don't see it. You don't see it like that, and losing him and then having a wide receiver room, again, Chris Hunter has shown some flashes. We got to give Chris Hunter some credit on that one. But overall, it's just been a bad product. And T-Mac, I feel terrible for the kid because he's played, he's been loyal, he's played hard. Michael Lev, I think, put it very well when he talked about the body language experts needing to buzz off. Yes, they do need to buzz off because he has played, like I said, he has played admirably this season. But it's just one of those things. I think it's a little bit too, for Brent Brennan, a little bit too late. Now, the ASU game, Arizona State's going to probably be about a 10-point favorite, something like that, and nothing would surprise me in this game because it is a rivalry game, and I've seen teams that were significantly worse than the other team. But ASU is coming in with a lot of different. How do I put this? A lot of different. Things going for them. They got a lot of emotions. They got a very talented roster, and they know that they can win the Big 12. And if they win the Big 12, they're in the college football playoffs. So, they got a lot to play for. Now, Arizona, I mean, you could spoil that season, and I think that's what you're going for at that point. Go into the off season saying that you won 2 of your last 3 games, and then say that maybe things are going in the right direction. They're not, but there's really nothing else that you could say at this point when it comes to Arizona, when it comes to Arizona State, when it comes to Brent Brennan. So there's that. I think I think now when it comes to Arizona, when it comes to Arizona, there is there's not a lot of hope in this game. And but again, a lot of that just comes back to Brent Brennan. There's no identity, and I just don't know how you could go into the offseason and say, you know what, we're going to be a lot better next season. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe you have to do it. I get it. But the fan base is out. You're going to have 18 to 20,000 people there, and Brennan's talking about how he's going to build this program the right way. You inherited a pretty talented roster, man. I don't know that you're going to how are you going to build it the right way if you don't have players that are good, if you're losing players that you're not going to be able to replace from a talent perspective? The other thing, too, is that he was never able to really bring in players that were good enough to be able to contribute here, and that is a big part of the problem as well. But again, just kind of a disaster all the way around for Arizona football. Conversely, you see what's going on up the road, and and you just kind of know what you're seeing. But that's kind of where we're at this point. Now, we're going to get into some Arizona basketball. You got the Bahamas trips coming up here. That's going to be a very fascinating one for Arizona. You're going to talk about Territorial Cup this week, what you need to know about everything, because there's a lot to know about this. But at this stage in the game, though, just things not good for Arizona football. No clue what's going to happen to Brent Brennan, but I think it's fairly clear that he is not the guy. On that note, though, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Bear down and back the A.